We had cut our vacation short that year because my father, who was suffering from acute leukemia, was failing. He was in the hospital, caught up in that seemingly endless cycle of doing well and then not doing well, and going to the hospital and receiving some transfusions and then growing stronger and then going home back again. It was a cycle that we hoped would never end. And true to form, he seemed to rally over the weekend. We all visited with him on Sunday night, and he was vastly improved. And so on Monday, Tony and I and our 4 boys took our bikes to ride the trail at Ohiopyle. We left early so we could be back in time for our son David to deliver his evening papers. When we arrived home, the papers were there, so David and I took them around immediately. And when we returned home, my wife met me in the driveway. "You need to call your mother," she said. And then with tears in her eyes, she said, "It's your dad." And so I called to discover that my dad had died at 2:30 that afternoon while we were on the bike trail. We immediately drove to my parents' home about 15 minutes away. I hugged my mother and cried. And then went on to the back porch, and my wife followed me so that I could be alone. I was crushed with grief. My heart hurt. And then I turned to Tony and said, "I don't think I'll be able to get through this." I remember those words as if I spoke them yesterday. It was July 29th, 1991. Today, I'm here to tell you that I did make it through that devastating life experience, and I guess you figured that out for yourselves. I got through because as a family, we drew closer together, because my friends surrounded me, but the main reason I made it through is because God was by my side. We are here today to observe All Saints' Day. This is the day we honor our saints. They are saints, those from our church family and their families who believe in Jesus Christ as their Lord and have left this world to go on to receive their heavenly reward. We honor the memory of their lives and the blessing they were to us, and we celebrate our faith in Jesus Christ that has enabled us to endure and continues to sustain us. Perhaps a year or less has passed since some of us lost our loved ones. In one sense, it seems like yesterday. In another sense, it seems like a long time ago. For some of us, it's been very recent, in the last month or 2 or 3. And you may be still sorting out so many things in your own life. When we receive the news of a loved one's death, we are at first numb, aren't we? We're stunned. We wonder, as I did, what do I do now? And what will I do? And how will I make it through this? And friends and family surround us, but still it seems as if we're watching these things happen all around us. Nevertheless, decisions and choices have to be made. Life is different now in a dramatic way. How can we go on? How can the world continue to be the same? Excuse me, I lost my wife, or my husband, my mother, or my father. How can things continue as if nothing has happened? Why are people happy and laughing? Why are they enjoying life? Don't they realize that life is not the same anymore? And that's when God seems to come alongside us and place a hand upon our shoulder and say to us, "Be still and know that I am God." You may not feel that hand on your shoulder. You might not hear his voice audibly when he says it. You may not sense his presence alongside you in the instant that God arrives, but it is happening nevertheless. God says, "I am here with you. Be still and know that I am God." Isaiah encourages God's people with these words: when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And when you pass through the rivers, they will not sweep over you. And when you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. For I am the Lord your God, the Holy One of Israel. And Isaiah was sharing these stories because of the memory of Moses and the Israelites being delivered through the water as they crossed through the Red Sea. And they would remember the story of Daniel in the fiery furnace. And they would remember to say to themselves, to hear from God, as I was with them, so I am with you. When our hearts are broken, when you experience a crisis in our lives, it quickly becomes a crisis of faith for us. Why me? Why us? Where are you, God? Are you on duty or are you on break? We experienced a host of emotions. At times, it's unbearable. Have you ever seen a young child carry on when they're overtired or exhausted? It can be pretty dramatic, right? Some say they are acting out. What exactly does that mean, that they're acting out? Does it mean that they are displaying exactly how they are feeling? Some say when that happens, they're having a meltdown. And they reach a point at which they can't go anymore. They are done. They're overspent. They've lost their ability to be reasonable, to be rational, to practice self-control. Of course, you know, there are only 2 or 3 or 4. They may take a tantrum, they may scream and yell, and when you say something that they would normally say yes to, they say no. And it breaks your heart to see your child or your grandchild in this situation, but imagine how confusing it is for them. And so when that happens, what do? When they say, I hate you, you say back, well, I love you. When they say, I'm not tired, I don't want to go to bed, you take them to bed. You pick them up, you wrap your arms around them, you whisper to them or you sing to them. You make sure they can hear your voice so that they know you are there. You remind them of your love for them and how precious they are to you. I think it's very similar for us when our hearts are broken and our faith is tested. We grow angry and irrational. We may be unreasonable. We doubt and question what we know and believe to be true. And we wonder momentarily, does God really love us? Does God really care? And in some cases, we are disappointed with God. And God responds like a loving parent. He listens to our rage. He knows we don't mean what we say. And yet He knows how badly we hurt. It's hard for Him to hear, but it hurts Him more to see us suffer and struggle. And then He wraps His arms around us and He reassures us of His love and His presence. And we are reminded of His value to us. Often it takes months, a year, or more to recognize that God still loves us, that God has been by our side all along, and that God has enabled us, that God has empowered us to endure. Remember that story about footprints? A man has a dream about his life, and he sees 2 sets of footprints in the sand, one for himself and one for God. But during the most troublesome times of his life, he sees only 1 set of footprints. And so he questions why God would desert him in his time of greatest need. And God replies, my precious child, I would never leave you. During your time of greatest need, when you only saw 1 set of footprints, it was then that I carried you. The psalmist writes for our scripture today, God is our refuge and strength, and ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea. No matter what may come our way, God is still there for us. God is our refuge, our place of safety, our source of strength. It may seem like our world is coming to an end, but it isn't. God is always there for us in times of trouble. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. God is always there, always by your side. God always has you in his heart. And what's also important for us to know is that God is always on the throne. Psalm 46 gives us these wonderful images that remind us of the majesty and the authority and the power and the constancy of God. God is our refuge and strength and ever-present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth gives way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea. You see, it's not just about losing loved ones, it's about any struggle that we may face. When we are confronted with the struggles and the challenges of life, it may appear to us as though the world is coming to an end. To us, it may seem as though the earth is about to give way and that the mountains are, in fact, about to fall into the sea. What's next? We may ask ourselves. The foundations of our lives, our world is trembling. But to that we are reminded that God is our refuge and our strength, an ever-present help in trouble. A little later in the passage we read, nations are in uproar and kingdoms fall. Oh no, we may think to ourselves, everything we see, things that have always been, suddenly aren't as permanent as we thought they were. What shall we do? Who can help us? And then the author of this wonderful psalm reminds us of the awesome nature of the one we worship. He says, he lifts his voice and the earth melts. What a sweet image. The earth melts at the sound of his voice because he created it, because he sustains it, because he is the all-powerful one. He still reigns. The earth, all of life and creation obeys our God. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Today we lift up these scriptures to remind us that no matter what we may encounter in life, God is by our side. It may in fact be the death of a loved one, but it could also be job loss or a negative medical diagnosis, an emergency. It could be issues in our marriage, challenges of being a parent, or parents of our own that require more and more care. Perhaps the most important thing we can do today as part of our learning and growing is to review the past 12 months of our lives and to look for the places where you only see one set of footprints. Reflect on the rough spots, the challenges, the instances in which you never thought you would make it through to the other side. Remind yourself of those situations where you said, I don't think I can make it through this. And then realize how far you have come. You see, friends, it was then that he carried you. Maybe your journey through has just begun. Maybe your greatest challenges are still ahead. Perhaps you still have a long way to go, and you're anxious about it. Your heart is unsettled. Maybe you've endured several struggles in the past, and this is just one more. It's time for you. It's time for us to hear these words again. Be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in all the earth. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.